this is a topic that we fall into ditches with. Often we see it as selfish and not strategic.
So to me, self-care is about taking responsibility for creating the conditions I need to keep growing and to be the best possible example and live my life with intentionality. And so the opportunity for self-care is the opportunity to choose how I show up in each moment and the woman I'll be next year and the next decade, because right now I'm building what she needs for her through my habits.
Welcome to a very special episode of Small Talk. We have a guest host today who is one of my favorite people in the world. Welcome, Rachel. Thank you for being on with us today.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to get to speak with you.
Oh, well, you have made such an impact on my life. You were the midwife who really helped me in 2023 as God took me through a rebirthing process. And so over the last 2 years, it has been such a privilege to have you as an advisor in my life, to have you work and counsel my girls as well. And you just are an incredible wellness coach and have so many outlets of creative expression. But what I love most about you is that you're a mom of 6 boys. And so this topic that we're going to talk about today, I don't know anyone who is more of an expert at talking about self-care as you mother children, because I feel like this is a topic that we fall into ditches with. Often we see it as selfish and not strategic, but you helped me come back from a season of burnout. I was in major nervous system dysregulation. And you taught me the importance of self-care. And actually, Jesus himself is pro self-care, because in the Gospels, in the passage that talks about the great commandment, it says that we're to love our neighbor as ourselves. And so today, what would you tell our viewers about self-care?
It's one of my favorite topics because we all need it all day long. So to me, self-care is about taking responsibility for creating the conditions I need to keep growing and to be the best possible example and live my life with intentionality. And so the opportunity for self-care is the opportunity to choose how I show up in each moment and the woman I'll be next year and the next decade, because right now I'm building what she needs for her through my habits, taking care of my body, my spirit, my mind, my relationships. For me, it's about being intentional so that I can create instead of react. And in that way, the more we have going, the more self-care we need, because we need to be even more intentional with that much demand.
Wow, that's so good. That's definitely something that you've taught me is, let's think about 50-year-old Emily, 60-year-old Emily, 70-year-old Emily. That longevity honors Jesus, that we want to be able to walk with him sustainably. And sometimes when we're in a revival culture like our family is, it's like, let's burn hard, burn fast. And we forget how important it is to love ourselves so we can love others. Addie, what do you think about this topic?
I think it's so good. I mean, I love your definition because it's so future oriented. I think so much of our culture, we just live in the moment. Oh, I have my phone, I'm scrolling. I'm not thinking about anything that's coming in the future. And so I think it's so important of what you're talking about is even building personal legacy. Am I thinking about myself in the future? Am I already preparing to love that person well and honor her by having these habits or whatever it might be to sustain my health or spiritual growth? And I think it's so essential. I mean, this generation that we have that I'm a part of, and it's such a blessing to be Gen Z, amen. But there's just obsession with self-care at this hour. Like there was a trend that went around earlier this year about all these Sephora girls, they called them. They're like 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds that go to Sephora and they buy 27 skincare products for 9-year-old skin. 9-year-olds do not need 27. They don't need retinol. They don't need those things. But it was this massive trend that this generation is obsessed with self-care as a whole. And so I think that this topic is so pertinent to the next generation.
What do you think about that, Rachel?
Well, I think it's interesting because we've kind of made self-care about like spa days and makeup and even just like Netflix and chill, right? Is like self-care. And I think, pardon me, I think there's quite an important distinction between entertainment and distraction, which has its place, but I would not call that self-care. To me, self-care isn't something that you can put on or take off. It's not something that you purchase. It's being really intentional with uh, understanding how you're functioning right now and is that taking you in the direction that you want to go. So it can be doing something like something physical, like you're caring for your body in some way, you're exercising. It can be prayer, meditation, reading, journaling, reflection, grounding. But these are things that are free. These are things that that they change you. They don't change how you look. They may in the long term, but it's much more about creating a long term effect that you're rebuilding, you're remodeling. And you come to that, I feel like, the most effectively through just self awareness, through taking the time to quiet yourself and understand, like, what patterns am I in? Are they working for me? Did I inherit them or did I actually choose them? And then consciously reworking those patterns. Those patterns could be your posture, they could be your eating habits, they could be your patterns of speech and learning how to speak in a way that's more concise and more life giving, more clear. It could be your sleep, but you're really looking at, are your patterns serving you? And we're going to create new patterns. I think that's how I look at self care, is I'm creating patterns that I already know the fruit of those patterns. Like, this is what that pattern looks like in 3 months, in 3 years, in 3 decades. And I'm going to just like put a little investment in that because I'm excited to see how that grows over time, right? It's not something that can be taken away by a car accident or, a change in finances or anything. Like, it's wealth that remains. It's building the content of who you are. And of course, sometimes that's going to make our skin glow or it's going to, give us more energy. And that's wonderful. But those things ideally are in service of our achieving like a bigger part of coming into who we can be, right? So much of our culture now is about how you look as opposed to how you feel or how you are. It's about appearing instead of being. And to me, all self-care, the root is in being. It's like it changes who you are on a fundamental level, even if it's drip by drip, little by little. It's not like, 10 minutes is going to shift everything about who you are. But it's the mindset that I'm depositing that 10 minutes so that over time, added to the other times I did that, I'm going to be more. I'm going to be greater, deeper, richer, wiser, healthier in time.
So I love this because I think often we look at self-care as it more about relaxation or, just our own personal fulfillment. But I feel like you're connecting it to satisfaction and to growth. That without self-care, which there's a huge part that is just about reflection, that we really can't grow. So if we want to grow, which is deeply satisfying to us, we need to be reflective and then move into things that raise our level of satisfaction. So what does that look like for you on a daily basis? Because you mentioned that you weave this in and out. It's not like you have me time once a week and, you go out with the girls. This is something that is a part of who you are and something that you have woven into your daily schedule and routine and rhythm. So what does that look like?
Well, I will say it looks different every day. It looks different now that my kids are older than it did when they were younger. So what I'm about to share, like, please don't be overwhelmed. This is wonderful that it's come to this point, at 50. My life is different than when my kids were super tiny, right? But I feel like it's so important to start my day with self-care, especially the bookends, like the beginning and the end. But I also try to get one or two other little sections in the middle as well. And so I always do something for, I sometimes call it my inner work. It's like, it's my spirit, it's my mindset. It's really creating my intention for the day. It's removing everything that's not serving me that I woke up with. And I'm like, where'd that come from? And it's like, all right, we gotta start fresh here. And some days you wake up and you're already off to a great start and you can just ride that even, farther. But it definitely always starts with something for my spirit. That's the most important thing. I definitely enjoy moving my body. I love fitness. I've been involved in fitness pretty much every day since I was a teenager. So some days that might be something gentle, sometimes that's something more intense, but I usually move my body for at least 30 minutes, could be an hour, most days. And then I also really like to take the time to set my priorities for the day, which I often do the night before as well, but I like to revisit them, especially fresh in the morning and say, does that really resonate? And so lately what that's looked like is, I have my morning time. I have 3 key tasks that I know these are the things that are my biggest priorities in the day. I hope other things can happen, but if they don't, that's okay. These 3 we're going to make happen for sure though. And then I have my evening time, which is, to wind down, to reflect, to consider, how the day was. And sometimes that's, some stretching. It could be a bath. Sometimes I'll do a Sudoku puzzle, do a little reading. But I actually find that's more challenging for me because sometimes I want to get active and be productive in the evening. And it's been a point of discipline for me to decide, okay, I'm done at this time. For me, it's like 8:30, I'm done. Like, I'm not doing another load of laundry. I'm not going to just follow up on that email. We're going to just unwind now. And I found that's incredibly helpful just to kind of put me in that reflective mode, because I feel like in the evening, you have a chance to review your day and to learn what went great, what did I miss, what might I modify, and to use it as a chance to reflect and hopefully do it a little bit better tomorrow.
I love that. I think that, self-care is so connected to the discipline of rest. So, Addie, how is rest playing out in your life right now?
Yeah, I think that, Rachel is also my counselor as well. And it's been such a joy because she's taught me so much about what rest looks like, even for a young person like me. Because at my stage of life, people are normally like, oh, you're just going to run hard. You're going to do this, this, and this, and this. And at the age of 19, I've already had moments where I have felt burnout. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. I do not like how that feels. And so being more intentional with my hobbies in particular and finding things that bring me satisfaction. I love to work. I love to do all the things all the time. But something that the Lord's been teaching me so deeply right now is to focus on things that bring me life, and that will in turn bring rest into my life. And so focusing on doing my Pilates, going for walks, breaking out my watercolors, or just enjoying reading a fun fiction book or getting into the Word in new ways. Those types of activities that I find enjoyable bring about greater measures of rest in my life. But I think more important than all the things that I do, it's being with the Lord that brings about rest, because no matter what I do on the surface, if my heart is in a place of dis-ease and feeling stressed out or having anxiety, I will never be able to fully enter into rest. Like going on vacation, but I haven't dealt with the wounds in my heart isn't actually going to be restful.
That's good, Addie.
Because
That's
I'm
a word.
still carrying around those weights in my soul. And so I think so much of self-care, yes, it's practical, yes, it's physical, yes, it's all of those beautiful habits, but at the root of it, it's truly, is my soul being restored by the Rapha himself?
That's so good. And as you mentioned, the Rapha, we're so excited that we're hosting our first Rapha retreat in Utah. The Lord told me at the last quarter of last year, this is so supernatural. He said, follow me to Utah. I had no idea what that meant until we crossed over into 2025. And I have been on such an inner healing journey this last couple of years, and am constantly contacted by people who are saying, hey, I'm in adrenal fatigue. I have massive nervous system dysfunction and dysregulation. Could you help me? How did you come back from the grave? Because that's literally what it felt like. And just felt the prompting of the Lord to host a retreat for 15 people in an intimate setting in an amazing house in Utah on the very edge of Zion National Park. And I believe that it is very prophetic that God is sending us there to ascend the hill of the Lord, to hear from him. And so, what are you excited about with the Rafa retreat, Annie?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I've never been to Utah for starters, and so I'm so excited to see Zion National Park. But more than that, I am so expectant for what God is going to do in these people's lives. Like, I've been to conferences, I've been to retreats before, and those moments are absolutely pivotal to your life. It's just like where the Lord gives you an opportunity to either do a full 180 or just a course correction or just setting you on your path. And so I'm so excited to watch people like just literally get their minds blown in so many ways of what healing is possible for them. And I'm believing that people are going to receive breakthrough. And there's going to be things that are going to break off of their lives that they've been carrying around, chains that they've been lugging around for years and years and years, and that they're going to fly into Utah, and then when they leave 3 or 4 days later, that is not going home with them. And so that is what I'm most excited about, is to see this transformative power of Jesus Christ.
That's so good. And we're so excited that Rachel is one of our practitioners. I have to just briefly share with you how I met Rachel, because it's a supernatural story. But Addie is exactly right. There are times when God will send you somewhere to encounter him, and it literally is a pivotal moment. It's a tipping point, and you're never the same. So my husband and I went to a mastermind in Colorado in 2022 in November, and it was a business retreat. It was a business mastermind. And I honestly, that's what I wanted for my birthday present. I wanted to go to this event hosted by our friends, the Benham brothers. And I met Rachel there. She did a session on healing that blew my mind, and essentialism, and how important it is to slow down in this Western culture where we're constantly told we need to speed up, we need to do more, we need to do it faster, we need to do it better. And I remember pulling her aside and saying, there is something that I need to learn from you. And briefly chatting and just asking her, do you do coaching? Because I would love to learn from you. Well, at that time, nothing came from it. And she actually contacted me in December of that year, maybe 6 weeks after the mastermind. And I don't even think I replied. I think at the time I ghosted her. Shame on me. But the Lord knew what he was doing, because he had gone before me. Because on January 1st of 2023 was the first time we had to call the squad, because my heart suddenly began to race. My blood pressure was out of control. And trauma began to surface in my life that I had repressed since I was a child. Overnight, I was in stage 4 adrenal fatigue, could hardly make it from my bedroom to my bathroom. And in May of that year, when the doctors had no answers, the Lord brought Rachel back to mind and said, you need to learn from her. And so I called her, and we had an initial consultation, a session. And she's like, yes, I have a grid for this. And actually, she has the most amazing story about how God brought her into the wellness sphere, into coaching other people, specifically women who have suffered burnout. And it's all connected to your family story and how you grew up. And so can you tell us a little bit about that, Rachel? Because it's so intriguing about how God is giving you so many keys to wellness right now in this time when we need an inner healing movement.
Yes.
Oh, I love hearing your story and just witnessing the incredible transformation that God has done. It's been a privilege to work with you and to see you put the work in, because that's what's required. Like, only you can do this. And as you said, I see myself as a spiritual midwife. I can be beside you. I can support you. I can say, I know you've got this. I know it feels like this baby can't come out, but I promise, if we breathe and we're here together, we can make this, we can do this. We can get through the eye of this needle. So it's just been such a privilege to see the living proof that you are of embracing that transformation every day. Some days feel like big victories, some days not so much, and you just keep showing up and you just keep doing it. So I just want to honor that. So my story, I was raised in an extraordinary family, and our home was filled with leaders, church leaders, civil leaders, business leaders, and my father did a lot of counseling for leaders of all kinds my entire childhood. And I was able to be a part of extraordinary, conferences and events, but also some of the private meetings I would sometimes be included in where counsel was being given. And I noticed how many extraordinary humans, had really had a tremendous, set of experiences, and then their health or something would give, seemingly at the peak of their ability to contribute. When they're, they've been working forever to get in position for something, and the doors are open, and then a diagnosis comes through or a crisis of some kind. And so it became really clear to me that it's essential that if we want to have a big impact, we need to think beyond, like you said, like the go, go, go now and the demand of now, because there is plenty to do now. And there's 50, 60, 80 hour days wouldn't even cut it, right? So how do we have a different view? Like you were saying, essentialism, the less but better. What types of activities will have the greatest impact? Where can my life have the greatest impact? And not living in such a way that you can sustain it for maybe a decade, maybe two. But then right when you're just so excited, the rug gets pulled out from under you. So the ability to build value that grows over time and to build it in a way that you've protected it because you've built a really solid set of habits and mindsets and a view of life that includes, yes, working hard and effectively and strategically, but also strategic rest and renewal that is constantly part of the cycle, just like creation is designed that way. And so we are part of creation. We're not above and separate from creation. We too need to live in those cycles. And I believe that for all of the good that we need to bring into the world and the healing and the transformation, we need to model those cycles of extraordinary productivity and of extraordinary rest, strategic rest, as we said, not just distraction, which, that's fun, but it can't be the heart of your practice. So I feel like it was more looking at the long-term effects. And I knew so many people over long periods of time. And for some reason, I just am a student of people. And I have been since I was little. And it's such a blessing to get to learn from other people, from their mistakes and their successes, and then be able to put that to good use.
I love that. Yeah. Addie, what do you think?
I think it's just such a powerful story that God has anointed people at this hour for such a time as this to be gifted in specific areas. And so I think it's so important to celebrate people that he's gifted with healing hands, or he's given them to the ability to write books, or he's given them the ability to be politicians or whatever it might be, but to celebrate those people who are experts and lean on them for their expertise. Like, we wouldn't have grown the way we have without Rachel because of the expertise and because of the healing hands and words that God has deposited in her. And I think it's just so beautiful that there's people at this hour who want the restoration of humanity, that we desire for the healed to become the healers of the nations. And so I think it's just such a powerful story.
It is. And I think that Rachel has so many keys she's holding.
Yes.
But I don't know anyone better on sexuality, on femininity, on renewing the mind, and not just, unpacking that concept theologically, but how does it apply practically day to day? I think that's one of the things that Rachel has helped me with the most. And so I'm just so thrilled that she is going to be joining us for the Rafa retreat. And we are hoping that there may be somebody who is watching the stream today that wants to join us June 25th through the 28th. You can check out the information below to go to the registration page. We would love to have you join us. Addie, can you share a few of the details?
Yeah, so it's a packed weekend, but it's so we just designed it so perfectly for there to be a balance of teaching, learning, rest, and the ability to have activation and grow relationships. More than anything, we want this retreat to build a community of people who can lean on one another, who can call each other, or whatever it might be, to build a fellowship of people who want to be well and who want to be healed. And so when people arrive, we have other practitioners who will also be joining us. So there will be sessions where we're doing teaching. We're bringing all the food in, organic, farm raised. It's going to be made in-house to promote healing. I believe we're going to have Pilates in the morning one day. We're going to do a special hike to a river,
To the Emerald Pool,
Yes,
I
to
believe
the
it's
Emerald
called.
Pool. That's what it's called. And we're going to be actually do baptisms there, and then we will hike back. And so all the way around, it's just an experience for all the senses, for learning, for rest, for building community. And so it's going to be incredible.
That's so good. What are you excited about for the Rafa retreat, Rachel?
It's going to be amazing to be in an immersive environment where everything is designed to support healing and also to support what could be a new normal for people. A new normal as far as the patterning of how the day is, new ways of thinking, things that have been let go of, and that lightness is the new normal. So it's just going to be wonderful to witness and to midwife some of these transformations and really support and cheer the people on that are brave enough to step into that new chapter that they're feeling called to, and they know they can't carry these old things with them. They're exhausting and depleting, and it's just, they have to shed it. And I am so excited to provide the practical tools and the inspiration and just the enthusiasm. And, I love being a cheerleader. So just to be that for people and watch the freedom and witness the new birth.
I love that. I think one of the things that I'm really implementing this year that you have influenced me in is the 4 Ps. And I think the 4 Ps are a huge part of self-care, which is what we're talking about today, because they promote rest, right? And so we talk about presence. Being in the presence every day is enormously restful. For me, I don't know if there's anything more attached to self-care than being in the presence of God, because as He loves me, I experience love for myself. I experience what I need to nurture other people and to love them. So there's presence, there's productivity. They're the parts of our day where we're, moving into our callings. There's planning, which is a huge part of living a life of rest and caring for yourself. And I'm missing one. Which one am I missing, Rachel? Presence.
Pleasure.
Oh, you know what? That is so indicative of me.
Our personalities would skip that one.
Right. We're on mission. We're walking with purpose, but I often forget pleasure. And actually, you are the one who taught me about diversifying my pleasure portfolio, which is such a huge part of self-care. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I got that term from a life coach named Tanya Lee, and I loved it. I immediately thought, this is genius. It's the idea that so many times we put all of our pleasure in one thing. And for a lot of people, it might be something like food is a very common one. It could be alcohol, it could be screen time, but we kind of see that as this is the way I relax, or this is how I enjoy my life, right? But there are so many forms of pleasure that are life-giving and important. And like you said, to diversify is what we'd want to do for all of our resources. So it's about having a whole list of things that we regularly do that inspire and delight and help us really enjoy this life that we have and maximize our experience, our connection to our senses, our connection to the moment, to the people we're with. And I feel like, as you said, our culture has a big focus on entertainment. But a lot of the pleasure that we experience, it's very shallow. And I think true pleasure is a pleasure in the moment, but there's no regret or sorrow in the future. It's a pleasure that brings you deeper pleasure as time goes on. And so I'm a hedonist in the best way. People say, oh, you're so disciplined. I think I just like feeling great more than you do, I guess. but So, looking at, what is, intelligent carefully designed, curated pleasure, what does that look like? And how do you build that into your day? And how do you make pleasure something that serves you instead of something that like takes you off track? And I love the idea that we can unify our pleasure and our purpose together, and that, you know, people don't have to be afraid of pleasure. It's meant to reinforce things that are good for us when we practice it with wisdom and intentionality. And I love helping people discover new ways to do that.
I love that. One of the things I admire about you and just honor you for is that God has blessed you with such a powerful spirit of wisdom. It's so dense. And so it can span, you know, the theological range, but it's also so practical. And I remember when I came to you and I was struggling with losing 10 pounds. I wanted to lose 10 pounds. And, you know, I'm looking at all the things. I need to shift this in my nutrition. I need to increase my movement. And you just had this penetrating insight that it was attached to the fact that I was just going to food for pleasure. But if I diversified my approach and I was making sure that at different points in the day, I was stopping and doing things that just truly brought me enjoyment. And this is biblical, guys. God created us for his will, for a purpose, but also for pleasure. And if we deny that, we will find ways to satisfy it in ways that aren't holy. And so when we're strategic about our pleasure portfolio, it helps us to enter into the deepest satisfaction that we can experience as human beings. Addie, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, even in the Westminster Confession of Faith, it says the chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy him forever.
Yes.
Not only are we glorifying the Lord, but we are meant to enjoy him. And I think that is such just so beautifully encapsulate why we need to take pleasure, why we need to take pleasure in this life. Like miserable Christianity is exhausting.
Yes.
God desires for you to enjoy the adventure that you're on. God desires for you to be able to live, laugh, and love in his presence and celebrate the adventure he has you on until the day we see him and are like him. And I just think it's so essential. I mean, even, I don't know, I just always have a tendency, oh, I'm sad, I need a snack. Oh, I'm this, I need a matcha or whatever. You know, I love food. I love to create food. It's an art form 100%. But in so many ways, like this, our stomach can become our God so easily. And so even just personally diversifying what I like to do, like, oh, I'm going to go for a walk instead. Or I'm going to get out my watercolors instead today, instead of, oh, I would rather have some popcorn or a bag of chips. And to make myself feel happy. But in the end, when I go to those other things rather than going to what is familiar, there's so much more joy that comes out of it.
That's so good. And I'm not sure if I finished my story, but Rachel really has helped me in this midlife period where it is very challenging as a woman to lose weight, to find other modes of pleasure so that I don't turn to food. And so it's been amazing in this last year. You know, I think I'm like 4 pounds from where I want to be. And I just love that I've now found a whole list of things that I turn to instead of food. And that I've become proactive in searching for pleasure rather than reactive, because when we don't feed that part of our being, it will come out sideways, and it will come out as, you know, 100%. I need to eat a huge dinner to feel full rather than I'm going to live full all day long. What do you think, Rachel?
That's such a good point. Sometimes I notice if I come to the end of the day and I'm like, wow, I need seconds, it highlights to me that I didn't take the time to nurture myself in the day. It's kind of like we use food sometimes as a way to catch up on the self-care we didn't provide. Like, I was hungry for time alone. I was hungry for a nap. I was hungry for a little quiet. I was hungry to dance. I was hungry for these things, and I put it aside. And then now I'm going to like kind of catch up and pay the pleasure, toll at the end of the day. And so I like to learn from it, right? Because we're not going to do it perfectly every time. And I think one of the core things that I live by and that I love to encourage people with is growth mindset. We're not going to get it right every time, but we can learn from everything. And if we keep learning, that ratio of success is going to keep going up.
Yes.
So, I feel like learning throughout the day just how to listen better to your body, to your emotions, to your mind, and just get to what is the core, what's actually needed right now. Is, do I need to listen? Do I need to, really reveal my heart? Do I need quiet? Do I need community? Like, to really become a student of yourself is what you need to grow. It's that self-awareness, but also to share. Like, you love your neighbor as you love yourself. And as you learn to become more perceptive about yourself, you're going to notice cues that you would have passed by years before in other people. You can read them better, and you can gently support them. Even if they can't quite name what they need, you can kind of intuit it and go, would this be supportive for you right now? Would you like this? And so it really allows you to, to keep learning yourself over time. And then with that, to expand your capacity to serve others with greater, perception and greater skill, and with that gentleness, just to understand that, we're not going to get it right every time, but we are always loved unconditionally and offered a chance to try again. And by giving that to ourselves, we actually learn how to be more compassionate with other people, because, sometimes you think, oh, I'm hard on myself, but I'm pretty good with other people. Probably the people around you wouldn't testify, right?
Very
So
good insight.
we learn. So even on those days when I'm like, oh, I think I could have done better today, that wasn't, 10 out of 10. I think, that's the perfect opportunity to teach my children how to learn from mistakes, how not to just carry the weight of condemnation, how to mend things. Everything we do is an opportunity for self-care, which is self-reflection and intelligent choices for doing better next time in service of becoming, the self you were designed to be, and being of the greatest service through becoming Christ, Christ in you, the unique expression of who you were made to be, which is going to be different than me and Addie and everyone else.
That's so good. And one of the things I appreciate about you is you always come back to that ministry is about service. And so even here, you're bringing us all the way back around to the fact that self-care is really about service. Can you just give us a few words about that as we close today?
Absolutely. Oh, so I love service, because service is the opportunity to give for something that you value even more than whatever you're doing in this moment. And my greatest desire is that intentionality, which is to line up this moment with the future moments. So it's as straight a line as possible. And I'm able to advance on that little track, which is not always straight, kind of goes all around. But I feel like service is the track that, if we understand even our self-care is in service, there's no separation. There's no separation between pleasure and purpose. There's no separation between productivity and planning. Planning serves productivity. Pleasure serves purpose. And so we understand the integration of all of the parts of our being, and how essential it is that we live in that integration if we're going to be authentic and effective.
That's so good. You're one of my favorite voices in the earth right now, and I just so admire how you've chosen hiddenness. You have raised your children. You are somebody who constantly challenges me to put first things first. And I just believe that God's going to continue to release your voice. I'm excited about the consulting opportunities that are coming to you to influence even the direction of this nation. And so if you have enjoyed this just family conversation today between three sisters, we would love to invite you to come with us to Zion, to Rafa. We purposely have kept this retreat to 15 people because in intimate environments, you can go deep. And we believe in deep relationships. We believe in deep transformation. And we are so excited to host the healer with our White Stone family so that you can taste and receive of his healing nature. And so often he works through people who are willing to be his hands and feet, like Rachel, like Dr. Robin, who will be joining us, who is an expert in releasing trapped trauma. And we just are excited to have a personal chef and to provide stellar accommodations just that allow you to unplug and to kind of get out of your familiar environment. Because when we're always in the familiar, it's sometimes hard to challenge the stuck places in our lives. So thank you for being with us today, and join us in Zion.